Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to the Kamado Joe cooking channel. Today we're going to fire up the classic and we're going to do our first cook from that beef tenderloin that we broke down recently. We're going to take two of those really thick fillets and make steak Diane. So let's get started. I've lit a fire in the firebox of the Kamado Joe Classic, mostly over here on the left side, and we're going to be setting up for some two-zone cooking because I'm going to be cooking some in an iron pan on this side, and then we're going to be doing some indirect cooking up here. So to get started, I'm just going to go ahead and set the indirect rack in here, and I'm going to set my pan in here also because we're going to let the pan preheat, and we're going to let the dome temperature in the grill come up to around 400 degrees or so. Okay guys, our grill is almost up to temp, so I'm going to grab this pan. We're going to move it over to the low side here over some direct heat to let it get nice and hot, and I'm going to move this grill grate off to the side while we do this part. So I'm going to let this pan continue to heat up till it's nice and hot. Okay guys, our pan's nice and hot, so the first thing I'm going to do is put in a little butter. We're going to get that butter melted down, and I'm going to add a little olive oil as well. Get that nice and melted. Let that oil start shimmering. And then I've got two really nice thick fillets that I've salted and peppered on both sides, and we're going to let these guys sear for about 3 minutes on each side. Okay, been going just a hair over 3 minutes here. We're going to give these guys a flip, let them go another 3 minutes. Okay, we've gone for about another 3 minutes, so now we're going to take these guys off, and I'm going to loosely cover these with foil and set them aside while we keep going here. While I've got that oil nice and hot, I've got some shallots and I've got some mushrooms that we're going to cook down here, and I'm just going to cook these and constantly stir these for 2 or 3 minutes here before we go on. And after that's been cooking for a couple of minutes, I've got about 4 cloves of freshly minced garlic, and we're going to keep cooking that until that garlic starts to take on just a little color. Okay, and as that garlic starts to brown just a little bit and become fragrant, I've got a half a cup of brandy that we're going to add to this, and you might want to stand back. This might ignite, it might not. And we'll just stir that in. Sometimes outside in the daylight you can't see when that's ignited, but it's very hot, so we're going to continue on now. I've got a half a cup of red wine. I've got a half a cup of beef stock, and that beef stock is a low sodium beef stock that I reduced to a half a cup from a 32-ounce container of beef stock. So I reduced that down earlier. And I've got a little bit of Worcestershire sauce that we're going to toss in there, and then we're going to toss in just a squirt of Dijon mustard. And I'm going to stir that until this comes to a simmer. Okay, after that comes back to a simmer, we're going to put our steaks back in here, and then I'm going to move this over to the indirect side of the grill and put it back on this upper rack over here, and we're going to let that continue to cook until these steaks come up to a medium rare. I'm going to bring those up to about 130 or so in the center before I take those off. Okay guys, we are ready. Look at that. Does that look amazing or what? I'm going to take that off the grill. We're going to get some on a plate and have a look at it. Okay guys, that's looking amazing. So I'm going to take the old knife. I'm going to come right down through the middle of that. This thing's just tender as butter. Have a look there. How about that? Man, that's beautiful. That's my dinner tonight. So, this is the number one thing, or my first thing that you can do with that whole beef tenderloin. Make yourself a $50 meal out of just one part of that $80 cut of meat. Until next time, this is John Setzler with the Kamado Joe Cooking Channel.